Hi, I'm Alex. I'm a senior software engineer based in Angola, Luanda, the capital. And in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about the fast key value database that I've been building in the C programming language. The fast key value database is essentially a redis clone that I built to understand what it takes to build a key value database from scratch, from a first principles approach. Um, and I'm also going to discuss some of the books that I've been using to help me in terms of the knowledge that I need to acquire to build the key value database. And one of the requirements that I had was that it should be fast, as fast as Redis in most operations like set, get, and other basic operations, or even faster. So that was one of the goals that I had. And I was actually able to do so. And I'm going to walk you through some of the books that were extremely useful while building the FASTKey value database. And I think it's important to start with foundations, which is the programming language. And I used C. I had many choices. I could choose Zig, I could choose Rust, or the Go programming language, but I decided to go with C, which was a language I was already learning at the time. I've had experience using C many years ago, but I wanted to get back into C. I wanted to get back into understanding C code bases, and I've been doing various efforts. I've been putting in the effort to actually gain the knowledge in the C programming language. I said, hey, let's just use the C programming language. And one of the books that was extremely useful was the C programming language book, the second edition by Brian Kernighan and Dennis Ritchie. This was extremely useful, especially the tutorial parts of it, the first couple of chapters, which just gave it like a brief introduction to the C programming language. I already had experience, so it was just a matter of slowly going through the material just to refresh my memory and build those foundations again. One thing that I did find about this book is that it used C89, if I remember correctly. Oh, ANSI C. Used ANSI C, American National Standards Institute's version of C. And so whilst I was actually writing the code, I needed to remember that, hey, I need to use the C99 equivalent of whatever this book was suggesting. So if you plan to use this as a tutorial, as a guide to learn the C programming language, be sure to translate from ANSI C to C99. But other than that, I think this is a well written book, excellent book by the authors themselves, and they go through lots of the things that you're going to need to be able to understand the C programming language. One of the books that I really enjoyed was the C Programming: A Modern Approach. This was an excellent book. Not only does it go through the C programming, like the basics of C programming, it also talks a lot about actual data structures and algorithms that you can implement using the C programming language. And I think that was the part that I really enjoyed. It talks about abstract data types for those who want to get into that, and it gives but it actually dives deeper into what you might need from the C programming language if you are a senior software engineer or a software engineer actually building real world applications in the C programming language. Like how to define libraries. It just goes really deep into these things, and goes into I would say, not superficial level, but it might be superficial for those who already have vast experience in data structures and algorithms. But for those who are just maybe you haven't touched data structures and algorithms and you want to get a refresher using the C programming language, I think this is an excellent book for that. And it also explains wonderfully the C concepts. So the books that we've discussed up to now are just the foundations of the C programming language, which is the core of what Redis is, or what fkvs is built upon. And another thing which is extremely useful was this one, A Common Sense Guide to Data Structures and Algorithms. An excellent book. And I think two sections of this book was important, which is the topic or the chapter on hash tables, which is one of the core data structures of the fkvs database, and as well as the section that talks about linked lists, more specifically the doubly linked list, which is the data structure that fkvs uses. So it uses two core data structures, which is the hash table as well as the doubly linked list. These are the two core data structures that the fkvs database use. This was excellent for that. I would say it was excellent in terms of the core concepts, because this book actually goes through the data structures in various languages. For the one that was discussed, W linked list and hash tables, was written in Ruby, if I remember correctly. So I essentially had to translate from concepts and the sample code into the C programming language. So I had to factor in things like dealing with pointers. We don't use objects in C, so we use structs. So how do you map the structures out in that way? I would say ChatGPT was also useful, and Grok was useful for that. But I kept it very minimal when it comes to using AI or large language models like ChatGPT and such. Another excellent book was the Linux Programming Interface. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful book. I would say one of the great things about this, or parts of it that were really useful, was understanding how processes work. Obviously I had an understanding of how these things work. It was just great actually digging deeper into these topics and just going beyond the level that I was before. Because I had an understanding of what a process was and the various states that it can be in, but I just wanted to get deeper. And this book was excellent in terms of that. And one of the great things that I like about the book is you could use the sample code to run both on Mac OS and Unix, on Linux systems. So it was super useful. It was good to understand, virtual memory. I would include this as well in this section. Operating system, three easy pieces. Went deep into the virtual memory and how that works, and even though it didn't directly map into fkvs, but it gave the overall deeper understanding of how these things intertwine. Another great thing about this book in this specific book was that it gave a really good understanding in terms of how to use monotonic clocks, which was really useful when building the benchmarking tool, the micro benchmarking tool called fkvs benchmark, to actually benchmark the fkvs application, so I can see how it compares with systems like redis. And it also went through how to implement the basic event loop using KQ or is KQ and what's it, the equivalent on, I forgot the equivalent on Linux. But yeah, but it was actually useful in building like a basic version of that. And then when I actually started building the fkvs server, I had the necessary concepts. I knew the APIs I needed to touch and interface with, so that I can actually build a more robust implementation in the key value database that I was building, and to ensure that it would performance. And yeah, the concepts that I learned in this book helped me build an efficient, asynchronous, non-blocking key value database using the C programming language, using I/O multiplexing for increased efficiency and incredible speed in terms of I/O operations. And I also got a much stronger understanding of how to build servers in the C programming language for systems like Unix-based systems like macOS, as well as Linux-based systems. And yeah, I was able to build something that's fast and efficient. And if you want to have a look at the actual source code, it's available on GitHub. I will probably have that linked with this video so that you guys can have a look at those. And yeah, these are the books that I use while building the fkvs server. And hopefully you got some tidbits of knowledge in terms of how these books can be useful if you're building similar systems. And yeah, that's it for me. Until the next video. Ciao.